Hello, I'm Kim Sawicki from Sustainable Seas Technology, and today I'm presenting on behalf of a collaborative team including Francine Kershaw of the Natural Resources Defense Council, Kurt Lieber of Ocean Defenders Alliance, and Dan Silver and Michael Beck of the Endangered Habitats League. Together, we form the Marine Innovations Gear Alliance, or MEGA, coalition of scientists and environmental organizations working to rigorously test and advance whale-safe fishing systems. I will present results and lessons learned from California's experimental box crab and king crab fishery. California required on-demand gear for work with this year-round fishery after a documented whale entanglement in 2021. For new and emerging pot fisheries, on-demand systems are now likely to be mandatory to reduce entanglement risk. When we talk about exploratory fishing in California, it has a very specific meaning. Under Fish and Game Code Section 7090, it refers to a fishery that's starting to show increased interest or landings, but it isn't yet established. Before anyone can begin exploration, the state first has to formally designate it as an emerging fishery. Once a fishery is designated as emerging, it can only proceed under an experimental fishing permit, or EFP. The EFP provides a structured way to gather the necessary science, test gear performance, and determine whether the fishery can operate responsibly. The objective is to evaluate three things: sustainability, enforceability, and economic viability, all before the state makes any decision about granting full commercial authorization. Having an EFP means that we have a dual mandate to meet: gathering biological data while fishing exclusively with on-demand gear. Every trip begins and ends with documentation. The general log captures all of the gear hauled that day and includes manufacturer reliability data. We also use ZebraTech electronic monitoring, which records soak profiles. That information is submitted either as a CSV file or through a SIM card upload. For the crabs themselves, we collect biological data for the state, including carapace width, sex, maturity, shell condition. If we recapture tagged animals, that information is logged as well, helping the state track growth and movement. Finally, we generate the landings data, which ties each trip to its receipts and recorded catch. All of our deployment and recovery data must be submitted within 72 hours of the event. If these forms and data sets are not submitted on time, it is considered a violation of the permit. All of these requirements, the data collection, the strict reporting deadlines, the gear service intervals, and even the vetting of crew, they add up to an exceptionally high human cost for everyone involved in this exploration. But that cost is essential if we want to move from experimental to authorized. And it's important to be clear, there are no stipends for fishing or for testing this gear. The participants here have put their own money into it, many providing their own gear, covering their own costs, and even paying part of the permit fees themselves. The only stipends available are small, and they're reserved for fishers who step up to train other fishers. This project has moved forward not because it's subsidized, but because people are committed enough to invest in the future of the fishery. Electronic monitoring is another requirement for us to fish under this EFP. We utilize a layered system to capture soak times, gear locations, and compliance data. Each platform has strengths and limitations, but together they provide a far more complete picture. This layered approach not only strengthens accountability and makes compliance visible to regulators, but also streamlines data collection for our EFP reporting requirements, ensuring that both regulatory oversight and operational needs are met. Since May 2024, we have fish gear designed by Subsea Sonics, Guardian Ropeless Systems, FeoMarine, and Desert Star Systems. We have recorded 734 unique release deployments, fishing a total of 3,914 traps. 4 independent fishers landed 24,000 pounds of box crab worth about $180,000, and have requested expanding the permit from 5 to 20 vessels, as well as raising trap limits from 75 to 400 per vessel, and extending the fishery to Central and Northern California. With no stipends for testing, every fishing day has to make sense financially. Many of our participants are portfolio fishers and are able to shift into more lucrative fisheries at different times of the year and then return to box and king crab when conditions are right. That pattern is reflected here. You can see the months when different vessels engaged with this fishery over the past year and 5 months. Participation rises and falls depending on markets, weather, and other fishing opportunities, and that flexibility is what has kept the permit moving forward. Our testing profile is intentionally dynamic. Operations span depths of 60 to 200 fathoms, across highly variable substrates and oceanographic conditions. Fishers choose their own rigging and trawl configurations, so gear is tested under the same circumstances they would face in real commercial use. The backbone of this testing is reliability. Our standard is clear: line management, lift bag, and release performance cannot fall below 95% retrieval success. If a configuration dips below that threshold, everything stops. We pause to assess whether the issue is related to fisher practices, gear failure, or misapplication of manufacturer instructions, and resume once the problem is identified and mitigated. By enforcing these standards, we ensure that only configurations proven reliable under real fishing conditions are considered for commercial authorization. This ensures the gear is not only safe for whales, but also viable and effective for fishers. In the first season, January 2024 through January 2025, we completed 57 trips, setting 360 strings and fishing just under 2,000 traps. Retrieval success averaged 98%, and nearly all of the early failures were tied to crews still standardizing their practices. Once pre-deployment checks, air testing, and vessel handling were consistent, reliability improved dramatically. In the second season, from January 2025 to today, we've already completed 79 trips with nearly 2,000 traps fished. Retrieval success is above 99%, and every unrecovered trap was tied to operator error, mostly by less experienced captains. Even with deliberate stress testing in rough conditions, performance has stayed well above the EFP testing threshold of 95%. Taken together, over nearly 2 years, we've fished almost 4,000 traps and recovered more than 99% of them. Reliability in this fishery isn't just about a good release or a rugged sled or lift bag. It's a system property, the combination of rigging, power, software, and habits on deck. This is commercial fishing with new technology under real conditions. Most of the failures we saw clustered early in the season. Once skippers and crews standardized their routines, pre-deployment checks, and deck choreography, those misses dropped dramatically. The lesson is straightforward but important. Reliability isn't a single product specification. It emerges from the entire system working together, from the gear design to the way it's used at sea. A few practices prove their worth fast. Before deployment, most fishers run a full deck test. They check battery life, air tank volume. They confirm release ID and compare depth against their line plan and make sure all connections to their ground line are secure. During setting, the focus is on maintaining proper speed and line tension, minimizing slack, and avoiding ground line tangles. During hauling, they verify the release, hold position, and log any anomalies immediately. At end of day, they ensure that gear is recharged, stowed properly, and all gear marking devices are synced with the appropriate gear marking app. When it comes to gear grappling, we follow a recovery ladder built on 7 steps: verification, precision, duplication, standardization, confirmation, dedication, and documentation. We have proved that nearly every set can still be recovered. This project has successfully grappled gear after more than 150 days on the bottom, even following heavy swell in depths up to 700 feet. One of the most effective strategies we used was mentor pairing, matching veteran operators with new entrants. That approach accelerated learning and gave new participants the confidence to perform. We even saw that a first-time captain, when paired with an experienced crew, performed well under real fishing conditions. And across the board, standardized training and laminated checklists made a big difference. They boosted consistency and helped ensure that everyone, no matter their level of experience, followed the same reliable process. In 2025, we directly trained 59 additional fishers and 10 CDFW enforcement staff. These were hands-on sessions covering gear handling, deployment, and compliance in real conditions. Our next steps toward authorization include expanding participation from 5 vessels to 20 statewide, formalizing certification and training so every crew is working from the same playbook, ensuring development stays fluid so manufacturers and crews remain connected, strengthening interoperability for enforcement integration, and finally, respecting working knowledge by making sure days pencil out for fishers so they make money fishing, not just testing gear. As we move forward, MEGA is committed to making sure this work is not just about testing, but about building a pathway others can follow. We've developed training materials, standardized data templates, and implementation guides that are ready to be shared. We welcome collaboration and want to ensure that everyone has the tools needed to succeed.